Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes that the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Leyla.
And this week we discuss DreamWorks' Kipo and the Age of Wonderbeasts, and how coming-of-age stories can be drastically improved by weird monsters. Remember, you can help us on Mortified, the Legitimacy Quest, by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, signing up for our newsletter, or following us on Twitter at MortifiedPod. So Leyla, you recommended this. This is a cartoon that I think it started in 2019, 2018, and it follows the story of Kipo, who is this young girl who has lived in this burrow her whole life, until an event happens that causes her to have to leave the burrow, and she sort of explores the above ground, which and this world is set in the year 2220, I believe, and she it's basically Fallout 4 but less edgy, and I think it's much better than Fallout 4 actually. And basically she meets a bunch of friends, and she has to try to reunite herself with her dad and discover what happened to the world 200 years ago, and what her and her family can do to change it. And it was a slam dunk. I don't think I've had this much fun watching a show in years. It was really, really good.
I am so happy to hear that, because you gave me a heart attack when you DM me and you were like, Leyla, you didn't tell me this was a magical girl show. And I had a That's So Raven, I speed rewatched the entire thing in my head again, going, no, I meant it to be good this time. So
there were two specific transformation sequences that where they go into her DNA before she does the weird transformation, and I was like, oh, this is a magical girl anime. But that's also not a slam on magical girl animes. If I watched more of Sailor Moon, I'm sure I'd like it. But yeah, it was giving me magical girl vibes. They don't do that transformation sequence after the first couple times though. So yeah, it's less an anime and more just a coming of age story. But it was really good, and I'm very glad you recommended it.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, they kind of have to do it, because it is at its heart very much a capital K kids show. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like if they didn't go into the DNA sequencing and Kipo just all of a sudden started growing purple leopard hair on her arms,
yeah,
would have been maybe a little bit confusing for the target demo of 10 to 12 year olds.
Yeah, I was wondering what the target demo was, because it does seem like if Kipo's turning 13, usually the target demo is kids a couple years younger than that, because by the time you're 13 you're way too cool for stuff like this. But in general, it made me kind of sad that when I was 10 years old, I didn't have this kind of quality stuff. I'm so astonished by the level of quality in kids shows. Do you think that kids shows nowadays are just better? Because this was incredible, and this is from the same animation team that gives you How to Train Your Dragon and stuff. So
so yes and no on the How to Train Your Dragon point, just because just as a PSA, DreamWorks TV animation is a different arm than DreamWorks feature productions, whatever their studio is formally called. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I think I was just saying do you feel back in the day we just didn't have as many good options for television watching, because I don't know, I didn't have cable until I was in the 4th grade, so I didn't have a whole lot of great programming for me as a child. But now with the availability of streaming services, it seems kids are able to have access to really high quality cartoons. I don't know, do you have childhood cartoons that you're actually this was not very good in retrospect?
I don't think anything I watched was really that good in retrospect. There's a really creepy Spanish Fox cartoon called Sylvan that I was obsessed with when I was 4. And I don't mean Spanish as in Mexican. I mean Spanish as in Spain, because I lived in Moscow. I accidentally found a YouTube clip of Sylvan, and it is the most single-handedly horrifying thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know how I watched it I now understand why my grandma thought it was weird, because looking back on it, I was like, oh, this is a wild and kind of ugly show. But that being said, I think that there's two things that have changed, right? So one, production technology has made a lot of things easier. So digital animation is a lot faster than cell animation.
Yeah.
So basically you can have shows like I genuinely couldn't tell you what Kipo was made in. It looked like Vector, so like maybe Flash or Toon Boom, but maybe it was something proprietary. Like I don't know. But I can tell you for a fact that there was a lot of older animators on Undone that were like, this is a lot easier than when we used to do it. But so technology has improved, and two, it's not just middle-aged white dudes making cartoons anymore.
Yeah, I was
that
gonna say.
That kind of contributes.
I was like, this is not Ed, Ed, and Eddie. Like,
I was literally about to bring up Ed, Ed, and Eddie.
Oh my god, yes.
What a wild cartoon. Yes, so I think the diversity of voices and the technology that like makes making better things easier is really like a contributing factor to the fact that kids have it real fucking good right now. So yeah, I don't really remember anything that like stands up to things like Kipo or She-Ra, or Carmen Sandiego. Even I might make you watch Carmen Sandiego at some point because I think you would really get a kick out of it. It reminds me a lot of like Kim Possible with better colors.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is a dope show. I got into it kind of late. It was on my watch list for forever. I'm really bad about like when something new and exciting drops. I usually don't watch it for like a year and a half. But I finally remembered it, and I was like, okay, I finally got through Hilda 2 years later. I'm gonna do Kipo now. And I got through Kipo, and I was like, this is dope as hell. And then like 3 weeks later, they were like, season 2's coming. I'm like, this is the best day of my life. And season 2 pops off in such a real way. Like, season 1 is good, but season 2 is so good. Did you feel that way? Because season 1 was kind of a lot of exposition, but like 2 got wild.
I mean, 2 got wild, but like I feel like the way that season 1 was constructed really like laid the groundwork for all the stuff that happens in season 2. Like you get the hints of like this connection with Scarlemagne that Kipo's father has. You get these hints at the Mega Monkey being something deeper with Kipo. And I mean, I really loved the world building in this show. Like it was just like as soon as in the first episode, I was like, okay, yeah, there's a world and like there's weird survivors up here, and yeah, all the monsters are big. And then this frog in a tuxedo comes out, and I was like, oh, that's a Hitman frog. I would know that frog anywhere. I don't know what's happening in this show, but I'm 100% on board now. And it was really good, and I loved the way that season 1 like just sort of like walked the viewers through the world and like set up expectations. And I think season 2 is like a great development on that. I didn't think it was like a huge departure from season 1 though, because of just the way that it was that it all had been set up. And I think that everything in this show is like very well written and executed on. Like the character work is immaculate. If we want to just like start with Kipo and go through the characters like we normally do.
Kipo a fucking angel.
Kipo is so good. Like she's, you know, you always have to have a protagonist that's sort of like happy-go-lucky and like a little naive. That I feel like that's a pretty common trope, but Kipo is like very cute and very like into science, and her whole personality is just like, I want to talk to people before the fighting starts, and that's what makes her like friendship with Wolf very funny for, you know, the first 2 seasons, like because Wolf is always like, no, you can't trust anyone, I always want to fight, and Kipo's like, no, I want to hug things. Like she's a huge hugger. And that's like really funny, just the juxtaposition between Kipo being like, oh, I'm very friendly and I'm naive about this world and I want to hug the enormous rabbit, and Wolf being like, if you do that, you're gonna get us killed. I think that's great. And then Kipo has just such good character development. The thing that I was a little bit worried about that they started planting the seeds for in season 1 was when she does have that first transformation, like she gets the fur on her arm. And like it's like, oh, okay, something's going on here. Kipo is she's experiencing this transformation, and like it's hinted that she's part mute or you know, mutant, but they call them mutes in this show. and like that worried me because I was like, okay, there is a long history of in media, specifically books, when we're looking at H.P. Lovecraft, of like, you know, if you have a half person, half monster, there is a with Lovecraft there is a biracial read, which is like, oh, these people are monstrous and terrible and bad, and their inbreeding has caused them to be, you know, less than human. And I think Kipo does a smart thing by first, you know, they handle the character and the characterization really well, and they show that, you know, they're, you know, mutes and humans are both, you know, bad and good, and, you know, they're just like any other sentient form of life, which is, you know, you can't lump everybody in together in little boxes. But they also make Kipo biracial, and that I appreciated a great deal. Kipo, I don't know this 100%, but I'm pretty sure Kipo is half Korean, half black, and that was also like kind of a smart way that they're like, I mean, I don't think that they would mess it up, because they constantly throughout the show they portray her parents as loving and caring and like brilliant people. So I don't think that they messed it up in any way. I think that the way that they have Kipo just be this great, remarkable, like smart girl is excellent.
Yeah, 100%. And we always like, so just by the virtue of like the media that's available to us, me and you always talk about like our incredibly good boys like Naruto and Boruto, and well, there's the first two names out of my mouth every time.
Yeah, I had to put a note on this outline to be like, you cannot bring up Naruto again, Aaron. You just can't.
I'm so sorry I did it. Anyway.
Well, okay, now the floodgates are open.
But yeah, God, we gotta put like a Naruto swear jar out. Donate $1
yeah,
to like Black Visions Collective every time we bring up Naruto. But anyway, so yeah, we always talk about like our incredibly good boys, and it's not that like girls can't be good in that same way, but it's just that they're not allowed to be good and kind of dumb. Not like Ed, Ed and Eddie dumb, but like kind of naive and fun and just like optimistic in that way that like a shonen protagonist generically would be, you know? Like girls aren't allowed that. Girls are always responsible. Kipo's just so dumb sometimes.
She's real stupid.
She's a real bonehead, and like she loves science. She's like very academically smart, but sometimes a girl just wants to hug, and sometimes it's time to run. And she's so good in that way, and it makes me so happy. But yeah, like you said, the biracial shit's really cool. And then, you know, the show does something really clever, which is like, Kipo is like very pink, like she doesn't just dress in pink, but like her hair is pink, her skin is kind of tinted almost pink, and, you know, again, she's like a mixed race, like real race, not like mixed made up race person. And so usually when that happens, it's like that trend of like a colored streak of hair in like an Asian person's hair. Yeah, you know, you have a girl character, you got to put a streak in it. That's how you know she's a cool Asian, not a regular Asian.
That's right.
But the way they get around that is they lure kids in with the pink girl, and then it's like, no, hold on, she's half pink Mega Jaguar. It's pretty fucking dope. So I love it. I also love, I was thinking about this, and we talked about this like very briefly in DM, but I love the kind of metaphor of growing up by way of turning into a Mega Jaguar. Because Kipo has a real choice to make, you know, like, does she continue to exist in this above ground world, and does she allow herself to become cynical like Wolf is, or like a lot of the adults are, or some of the animals are, or the mutes are, or does she get to retain her innocence? So when she turns full Mega Jaguar, which, by the way, they do not play with Mega Jaguar, she's a big kitty. She's
we'll talk about the monsters, but yeah, no, Mega Kipo is awesome.
Yeah, like, there's nothing, like, quote-unquote feminine about her, either. Like, she's just, like, a big kitty, and it's great. The way she can turn back is by way of an anchor to tie her back to her humanity. She always has, like, a way to come back, and even when she doesn't, they find a way to bring her back to Kipo. I think it's just nice in the sense that, like, a lot of the times as you get older, me and you are in our mid-20s, as we discussed, sometimes it feels like you have to get cynical or you have to get dark and you have to give up like a joy or kindness or naivete because that's just how the world works. And just presenting that conflict by way of like, you can turn into a giant animal or be a human, and for Kipo to say, no, you can be both. You can live in harmony, and also, hey, my giant monkey mom, we can bring her back too. It makes the entire conversation, it frames it as a false choice. You can contain the multitude of like keeping your inner child alive, and you can choose to be naive, not naive necessarily, but just kind and joyful and put that foot forward first. And that force in her is so powerful that it changes Wolf, who is just like this hardened little survivor, and it changes her for the better, and it makes Benson and Dave more honest, and it even touches Scarlemagne. So like, what a joyful, wonderful character. I love Kipo so much. She's a good girl, and I love her.
Yeah, it is really refreshing to take a little bit of a break from like cynical, twisted thief boys to just be like kind of this, to see this really nice, young, smart and dumb girl. And
well, I really like the Fallout comparison you brought up too, right? Because this is a post-apocalyptic show, but it's not like shitty post-apocalyptic where it's like everyone's grizzled and dark and violent and people are going to turn against each other.
There's a vague 50s racism underlying everything.
Oof, woof. Yeah. No, it was just genuinely joyful, and it's hopeful and demonstrates the capability to come together in adversity and to make good of new circumstances. It's delightful, and Kipo is delightful.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think the show also does a great job of building out her network of friends. We talked about Wolf previously, who they do a great thing in this show, which is that they make the main friend group of humans, at least, like all either completely black or like half black characters. Wolf is a dark-skinned black woman. I mean, she's a child, but she's a dark-skinned black girl. Benson's a little bit lighter skinned, but he's still, I believe, black. And just the way that they, you know, you don't get tokenism if you have so many black characters. Like, you can afford to, like, you know, put your characters in danger, you know, and not be weird because they're not the only one. And I think that's really smart. And just like the way that the narratives branch out, like we see this gradual change in Wolf. We see Benson and Dave, Benson and Dave are sort of like comic relief characters. I don't know that they get like a whole lot of narrative heft behind them, but like I just love the way that they all interact. The dialogue in this show is so goddamn funny. I have like a whole list of quotes at the bottom. It is like legitimately one of the funniest shows I've listened to in a long time. Like there's this scene right where Kipo is talking to Wolf after they have this big fight, and they reveal that like Wolf is afraid of losing Kipo, and that's like kind of a big deal for her because she's always been like a lone wolf. And Kipo's like, "Hey, things got emotional last night. Can we talk about it?" Wolf's just like, "Nope." And then there's always like these like throwaway gags that, like, you know, I don't even know if they're supposed to land, but I cackle every single time. Like in the beginning where Kipo comes up to the surface, she like finds this old guitar and she's like, "I'm gonna sing a sad song about being on the surface," and then a huge bird just completely interrupts her and she's like, "Ah!" and she has to like completely run away. And then like there's these like exercise 80s raccoons that they have to find this MacGuffin in their trash heap. And I think it's just like they're introducing themselves and they're like, "Oh, my name is newspaper and my name is tongue depressor," and then they're like, Kipo and her friends are like, "Oh, that's it, those are interesting names," and they're like, "Well, our names come to us by," and then somebody cuts them off and they're like, "We find our names in the trash," and I was like, "Hell yeah, you do, you idiots! I love you." Fucking weird raccoons. Find your names in the garbage. Oh my god, this show is such a delight.
The raccoons are so funny, but my favorite is the Otter Theater Troupe.
I said out loud, "Fuck off," when they introduced themselves as the Otters. I was like, okay, alright, it's gonna be one of these.
The Otters is honestly the funniest thing I have seen since Ember Island Players. Like, it's been a long time since I thought Ember Island Players could be topped, but Kipo wearing a suit of herself, going to Brunchington to sing a song about how much humans suck, and then being discovered, and then the frog is there, and it's just such a comedy of errors that it is legitimately, like, one of the funniest episodes I've ever watched. But I think two things in that episode really stood out to me, and it was, one, Brunchington. Naming, like, what are you're gonna introduce the concept of brunch in a kid's show, and where you're gonna go for it? You're gonna go to fucking Brunchington's, and who runs Brunchington's? Cappuccino!
Of course, that makes sense.
I love this. Yes, thank you, but also, and I regret to say this, not really, I don't regret it at all, this is the greatest show in the world. The Theater's fucking Human Suck song slaps. It's a banger.
Yeah, there are so many bangers in this show. Like, the music, both the original songs and the background music is just incredible. I cannot believe the production value they put into this. Like every so often in an episode they'll just have a person sing a song, and it's like pretty good. They're not like pop songs, but like you can get like why, some of these songs would be meaningful to the children, like the Heroes song for Kipo, the Heroes on Fire. Like, I don't think that's a great song, but like I get why if you were a group of like tweens you'd be into something dumb like that. And it's kind of cute. And just like anytime there's an action sequence, they have like this mix of like trap and hip hop beats with like it's like the music's just so good, and they use it in such effective ways. I love it. It's
honestly, it takes all the best parts of like the best and most inventive things of like it takes all the best parts of like Fallout New Vegas and Samurai Champloo and like the freedom you get of a kids show, and just puts it all together into this just charm offensive of 2 seasons, and it genuinely just fills me with so much glee every time I think about it, because it's such a well-constructed show, but it also, like you said, it's so fucking funny. And we mentioned Benson for like a second, but I just want to go back to Benson because I love him. Benson and Dave are like this human and bug pair, and Dave, every time something shocking happens, he molts, and he goes from being like a little baby to a kid, a teen, and a cool adult with lots of cool bug muscles, and then a very old man. And he just cycles through these things, and the writers will find ways to make him the most inconvenient thing possible at any given moment, and it's truly such a source of joy for me. But the other thing is, in season 1, Kipo has like a little bit of a crush on Benson. Mm-hmm. And there's this moment where they're on the Ferris wheel, and she like gets the courage to just tell him plainly, which is really cool. And then Benson just flat out says, like, I'm gay, which I was like, wait, you're allowed to do that? They let you? Even She-Ra, which is like the lesbians' fucking Rosetta Stone right now, no one ever said I'm gay. They just are. Yeah. And Benson's just out here being like, I'm gay, and then he gets to be in his own fun multiracial relationship where the dad is actually supportive.
That's true. I didn't even think about how, like, the dad is, like, actually really cool with it, and he's like, yeah, you know what? You would actually be good with my son.
But also Wolf trying to talk him up so much.
Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah, Benson, yeah, he fucked up, like, 8 mega scorpions, and he can make pancakes really good, and he's very supportive and caring, so, And then his dad's, and the boyfriend's dad is like, hey, that girl seems like she's into you. And he's like, oh, you got the wrong message, my man. I can't believe you winged Amanda too good for me, Wolf.
Which is a big turnaround from Wolf, who didn't want to say a word to Kipo when they first met, and now she's, like, actively wingmanning Benson, who she's not even as close to as she is with Kipo.
Yeah. God, just like even with like Mondu and Dave, like Mondu's like this little pig that Kipo finds at the beginning. Like even Mondu, who does not speak, like still does have like important character like actions. Like Mondu is like there's like this whole subplot in season 1 where they find a hint from Kipo's dad, and like Mondu is like mad at Wolf because Wolf is hiding it from her, and like they give Mondu like little bits of characterization, and like they're at the end of season 2, like Mondu saves them from Dr. Amelia. Like I think they utilize all their characters so well.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where Mondu saving them was so cool because it wasn't like, oh, Mondu gave them the ability to save themselves. No. Mondu was the last one not in a cage. And
also, that cage thing is so funny because like Dr. Amelia throws Wolf and Benson in the cage, and then Dave is like, "Hey, wait, why did you throw me in the cage?" And she's like, "I was hoping you were dead." And he's like, "I demand to be thrown in the cage." And she's like, "Okay, fine." It's so fucking funny.
She throws him in a cage, and they're all Kipo's just like, or Wolf is just like, "What the fuck?"
He's like, "Hey," she's like, "Why did you do that?"
It's so good. Dave is so ridiculous. It's so good. Like, they're just such genuinely good comic relief characters. And, like, even when they're not being comic relief, like when they're with... speaking of another great name, there's a living fungus that traps them in one of the burrows called Fun Guy. And it...
Fungus, yeah. It's
or Fungus.
Really, it's really... He's, like, creepy, too. They pull off the creepy ghost kid very well.
Fungus was very spooky. And then on the opposite end of that, you have the water bear, Mulholland.
Oh yeah, Mulholland is a great name for like a weird hippie tardigrade collective.
Like what? It's just these names they come up with are so fucking good, and it just surrounds this like core cast of characters. It's amazing, and there's never anybody who like. Until Scarlet Mane, there's really no one who, like, proves Kipo wrong in, like, an earth-shattering way. Like, she's always stronger than them, emotionally speaking. Like, she always changes them. But it's never before she puts them through some, like, ridiculous situation. Like, oh my god, what is the name of the frog?
Jamak?
Jamak hunts Kipo, and Kipo is just so insistent on being his friend that by the end of it, he and Dave end up in Brunchington's, like, punished in the kitchen, and Dave is just like, oh, you want to go check on Kipo? And Jamak is like, no! And then goes out to check on Kipo. Like, she completely turns people around and finds ways to embarrass them along the way, and it's just an excellent dynamic, and I love Kipo so much, and... She just wants to sing karaoke with you, and I want to sing karaoke with her. She seems like a delightful child.
Yeah.
And it's everything to me.
It's really, really good. Speaking of really, really good is also the way they handle the main antagonist for most of Season 2 and all of Season 1. Scarlemane is this hyper-intelligent mandrill monkey who... is like, he has magic sweat, basically, so he can control both humans and mutes, because he has, like, a weird, scienced-up pheromones in his sweat, and he can, like, command them, and that's, like, why he's the big bad, because he has, like, this big army of, mostly twin-headed flamingo cavalry, which is fucking awesome. I love his evil flamingos. They're so tight. But, like, yeah, he's, like, the big bad, and I just, when they revealed that Scarlemane in the first season was behind, like, the Mega Monkey attack, I was like, oh, of course he is, because you've been hinting at him for the first, like, 3 episodes, and I thought the way that they did that was so good. Like, they're like, oh, the frogs that work for Scarlemane, and then, like the cats are like, oh yeah, you don't want to mess with Scarlemane. Like, they hint at him being like this super big bad guy, and even Wolf's like, yeah, imagine the worst thing in the world. Imagine somebody 10 times worse than that. That's Scarlemane. And like, when it's revealed, like, oh yeah, this is the guy that you're up against, Kipo, I was just like, oh, that's just such good foreshadowing. Like, that's the stuff that, like, whenever I am trying to, like, DM a campaign or, like, write a story or something, it's like, that's the kind of foreshadowing I want, where it's like, you get it peppered in throughout, and then finally when you say it out explicitly, it makes sense. Like, that's just the perfect setup and execution. And then it only gets better, because of the way that they dive into, you know, Scarlemane / what's his real name, Hugo's background, and like about halfway through, when I realized that like they had made Kipo, like Kipo was created by like injecting monster DNA into a cell, I was like, oh wait, it's gonna be really weird if Scarlemane is Kipo's biological sibling. But thankfully they didn't do that. They were just like, no, he's just a monkey that was raised by her parents, so like they're not like, you know, related directly, but they're, you know, adopted brother and sister. And that I just love the way that they tied that all together. And it's Hugo's character development is so great. I loved everything about Hugo, especially at the end where like he becomes like, it seems like Kipo's winning him over, and then he's still like extremely evil with like the turning the remaining mod frogs into like a gold statue. I was like, oh my god, that's really dark. But like he's like, all right, Kipo, I'll let you give them a choice, like whether or not they want me to be their emperor or not. He's like, I'll give up all my aspirations, but instead you also have to like kill your father and pour this hot melted gold on him. And she's like, excuse me. He's very evil for a kids show, but also like his character completely makes sense, and I just love everything about him. I love Scarlemagne so much.
Really though, and he's so like, because in season 1 they introduced Scarlemagne, and it's like this monkey parading as like a Louis XIV kind of figure.
Yeah. Like
very Rococo. He plays the piano, and you're like, this is a dope aesthetic. But then you realize how he got there, which was he read a lot of histories about kings when Leo, Kipo's dad, would hand them over, and they taught him how to play piano, and they taught him all these things, and speaking of songs that slap, he sits at the piano in the lab, and he sings a song about how cautious he is about not playing the piano by himself, and that's how he gets discovered.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he gets out and he tries so hard to like make friends, and he's just kind of like awkward and nerdy and weird. And then when he figures out that he's been abandoned, whether they meant to, whether Leo and Song meant to abandon him or not, he uses his like magic sweat to become a king, and there isn't like a slide about it, you know what I mean? It is a switch that flips, and he gets right into the aesthetic. He's had the Pinterest board. He's gonna get the jacket. It's gonna be dope. It is just the coolest transformation of a villain, and is the most sympathetic story for a villain that I think I've seen in a really long time. It's so well done. I love Scarlemagne. I think he's so fucking funny. And speaking of his two-headed flamingos, is there a doper shot in cinema history than the end of season 1 where Kipo is like quote-unquote kidnapped and then comes back down riding one of those fucking flamingos with her big fucking cat paw.
Yeah, she's like, let's go save my dad, and it's like the sun's like behind her, and it's really dope. I think one of my favorite shots from this was when Scarlemagne attacks Ratland, and like there's just like this fleet of twin-headed flamingos just like dive bombing this Disneyland place that is like basically made out of it's like this free zone where humans and mutes like are supposed to coexist together, and it's basically just like a cool amusement park. And I thought it was very funny that in the first episode of season 2, that place gets burnt to shit, because I was like, this is made by DreamWorks. There is some exec who's like, oh, so Disneyland gets burned down in the first episode? Okay, yeah, you can have your season. That's fine.
Yeah, and then speaking of funny gags,
Vanland, yeah, because then once Disneyland gets burned down, they're like, okay, well, we have the one ride, it's Vanland. And then they do a whole bit about how they're Uber drivers also, and they're like, hey, if you could just give us a review. You don't actually have to give us 5 stars, but like, please do. And then Kipa's like, and then it shows them, and she's like, yeah, this was whole. And then it shows like the shot of her filling out the review, and it's like, great service, good music.
And then at some point, Dave is just like hanging out the window. He's like, yeah, this is my Vanland favorite ride, riding in the van. So good. They take canned cheese as payment, not even real cheese.
Yeah, it's like 12% real cheese. It's awesome.
Oh my god, it's so good. Vanland is like one of my favorite gags. And it's also implied that like the van is run by one of the rats, like literally running in it because he's sitting in the trunk. Like
that's true. He's in the engine.
Vanland is so good to me. The world building is truly just excellent, because there are some areas of this world that are like abandoned, and like you go to like quote unquote Wolf's old house where like all her memorabilia is at one point, and there are like the woods where the Chevre sisters live. Can we talk about the Chevre sisters?
The Chevre sisters, listen, like a lot of stories do the prophecy, like, oh, you have to go meet, the fates here. and, you know, they have magic powers and they'll tell you your future. This is definitely one of my favorite ways to lean into that trope, because it's like, yeah, they are weird fates that can tell the future, but they're not cool. Like, they make cheese, and the cheese is the one that tells you the future. And like, there's just like a whole montage. Yeah.
When you meet them, they fucking are chanting into the cheese with their hands on the cheese, and the chant is just feta, gouda, chèvre, fromage, which chèvre is goat cheese, and they are goats.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's so good. And like you were saying, like there's the Kipo's like big, learning how to control her Mega Jaguar is the best montage in the world.
Yeah, because, like, basically they're, like, throwing knives at her and, like, putting her hands in the hot cheese, and, like, she's like, spices in, spices out, or whatever, and, like, that's how they train her. It's, like, it's a little bit of a parody of the Karate Kid, but, it's really funny how weird and strange it all is, and they do a really good job. Like, this is, you know, we get so much conversation about, like, oh, this is a story that's been done before, and, like, the thing is that, like, if you can do stories that have been done before, but like with different characters, you know, with different, you know, from different angles, you can do the same story over again, and like you just got to put a twist on it. And this is an example of like a very well done twist.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of like tropey arcs in these 2 seasons, but they never feel tropey. They feel cool and new and fun, and there's like cool fun songs, and the soundtrack is dope, and the characters are really good, and there's like gags about raccoons finding their names in the trash. Like, it's just so, and the gags are always so obvious, but like you would never think to do it. It's just so masterfully crafted. I laughed so hard. It truly just like, what a joy of a show.
Yeah, I mean, it just this whole thing made me so happy. I assume they're going to be greenlit for a season 3. I mean, who knows with COVID going on, but like, gosh, I am so excited to see what happens next for these characters. Because like, I really liked the way that they turned like this person, Dr. Emilia, into the actual true big bad. And like, they sort of, they laid the groundwork for it pretty well. Like, in season 1, like where everybody was very shady about Kipo and Scarlemagne's origins and like what actually happened with her dad and her mom, and then like in season 2 they sort of go into it deeper, and then like, okay, there's actually this human scientist woman who is actually also bad. And I know that's like, you know, half of that is just like, oh, okay, we have to have a reason for a season 3 to go on, but like I still think they set it up pretty well to be like, okay, now we had this conflict between mutes and humans, now we're gonna have the humans trying to turn the mutes like back into animals / humans. And like, yeah, gosh, this show is, I'm just so happy about it.
I'm so happy to hear that. That jazzes me. It's just a great show, honestly. And it makes me jazzed that other people can see how great it is too. I was just, it's so good. It's so great. What would you be if you were a Mega Mute?
Oh yeah, I should have thought about this. I mean, I've talked before about how I like, you know, water type Pokemon. That's sort of my thing. But I think in this universe, I would want to be one of the birds. I liked how big and like dinosaur like they were. I think I'd like to be not a bird that's too flashy, like maybe a robin or a cardinal, because Indiana and Illinois both have the cardinal as their state bird. But it would be like more like a dragon, maybe. Like the claws would be really big, and I'd have like huge teeth, and maybe like maybe I'd like shoot like acid or something, and I would have like 8 different wings. Yeah, that'd be rad. What would your Mega Mute evolution be?
Oh, I'd just be a Chevre sister. Just
Hell
blind, yeah. Eating cheese in the woods, being cryptic.
I mean, that's the best way to go.
Yeah, Jesus. Oh. I would do that right now. Just give me some. I got some lavender goat cheese. I'll fucking wander off into the woods and never be seen again. That sounds great right now.
Oh, Leyla, what? Whose turn is it to Oh no, we're not doing a recommendation next week.
No, we have a very special episode.
Special episode. We're gonna try to get whipped up for you all. So recently there was a racial justice bundle on itch.io, where they sold like literally over 1,000 games, and one of them was a tabletop RPG titled, it is a hack of lasers and feelings, I don't remember. It's called Boy Problems. And I'll give the I will give the artist and the author credit once we actually play it. But once me and my wife get moved into our new apartment, I think Marty is who you said your friend Marty would be playing with us.
I don't know if Marty's gonna be willing to be heard, but I'll fucking find someone.
Yeah, we'll find somebody, and all four of us will play this Carly Rae Jepsen themed heist game with myself as the game master, because that's just what I do. But I think it'll be really fun.
I'm truly jazzed about it. I love Carly Rae Jepsen and tabletop RPGs, so it's gonna be fucking great.
I have every confidence that you guys will have a good and fun time.
And just like a kudos to Aaron, who started the show on Saturday and tanked it in 2 days.
I mean, it was definitely worth it. This was not like Gallivant where I was like, oh shit, I have to power through the rest of season 2. I mean, Gallivant was the exact same amount of time as this one. It was just a lot harder to get through.
Forgot I made you do that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron is now nervous when I recommend television, and it's fine. We'll
I mean, you've more than made up from Princess Tutu and Gallivant with this show.
It's so good.
I'll take a 1 out of 3 every day.
All right, cool. Because the more comfortable and trusting you get, the closer I get to figuring out how I'm gonna make you watch Inuyasha.
Listen, Inuyasha has a good reputation. It's gonna take a long time to get through.
No, I'm not gonna make you watch the whole thing.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, I mean, it'll be a couple
the experience.
Yeah. All right, Leyla, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, god damn it. I'm at LEYLSES at Lailsas on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can read my comic at astralheartcomic.com. And also just you can donate $27 to the Marsha P. Johnson Institute. Send me an email, LeylaMamArt, LEYLAM as in Mary A.M., art@gmail.com. I will sketch you something. Yay!
Excellent, and worthy cause. You can find me on the internet at AaronSXL on Twitter. You can also find the other show I do with my ex-evangelical friends at MBMBF and me. Probably the date that this episode goes up, there will also be an episode where we discuss one of my favorite Christian childhood movies, the Easter Story Keepers, which I watched 100 times and made my parents reenact the crucifixion on me too. So if y'all have 70 minutes and want to knock out a deep exploration into my psyche, check out the Easter Story Keepers.
God, your brand is so powerful.
It really is. I was rewatching it last night and I was like, man, this explains a lot about who I am, huh?
We discovered that both me and Marty's sister both went through a phase in our childhood where we just like watched Chicken Run every single day. And I feel like that explains a lot about me as a person.
Oh, me and my sister watched the VHS of that all the time too. Like that. Oh,
it's a great fucking movie. A sequel's coming. I'm ready. Aardman's the only thing keeping me alive anymore.
Oh, all right, Leyla. Well, I think I've got a quote to lead us out on.
Get us out of here.
All right. I used to be an average person with an above average reading level, and then I turned 13 and everything went crazy.
We never talked about the fucking lumberjack cats!
Oh no!
Damn it!